Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Wow, the Prime Minister is here, and he's ready to speak to you. So he wants to hear all the bright ideas coming from those in Gen X. And I believe that your head boy and head girl are here as well. I'm sorry, my name is Naomi Francis. We've been on the road all day. Hanover far in or from Kingston? Can you imagine? How many of you have been to Kingston? Yeah, so you know it's far, right? All right, so the Prime Minister is going to be here shortly. Head boy and head girl, you can come up for me. Head boy and head girl. Where are they? Where are they? Walking slow, all right. No, I can't believe this. So many of you have pens and paper ready to hear what the Prime Minister is saying and ready to ask questions. Good afternoon, head boy and head girl. I'm sorry, what's your name? Tair. All right. Alicia and Tair. Well, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, please stand. The Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness. Give him a round of applause. You may be seated, everyone. So the Prime Minister is in Hanover today, and he just spoke at the infirmary, and he says he's on a listening tour. In fact, the ultimate person who should be listening to you and your views is the Prime Minister, because he gets to plan your future. But in about 20, 30, 40 years' time, you will be in charge of the adults here. So what you tell us to plan, later on you're going to have to listen to others to hear how we plan Jamaica. But it's important that we gather like this, that the Prime Minister is here to hear from you in terms of shaping the future of Jamaica. Today we also have your Member of Parliament and former student. Boy, Rusea is plenty, All over Jamaica, we have some great Rusea's alumni. Please give a special welcome to your Member of Parliament, Miss Tamika Davis, who also attended Rusea's High. I also have your principal, Miss Anderson. Hello. And your head boy and head girl. I want to change it up a bit, because normally when the Prime Minister comes, we have a lot of adults talking and the Prime Minister shares his view and then definitely hear from you, Prime Minister. They are all armed with pen and paper and they've been taking notes from the moment I stepped in. So clearly the students at Rusea's really want to hear from you and they want to be engaged as well. So I want to start off the head boy, just to welcome you, sir, and to tell you how happy he is that you're here, and the entire school population that you're here, and certainly then we can get into the meat of the matter.
Well, good day, everyone. My name is Tair Allen, and I'm the head boy of the Rusea High School. And on behalf of the Rusea High School, I would want to give you a very hearty and calm welcome to our school, and I hope that today you can share your knowledge to the students, to their inquiries, and I hope that there will be mutual understanding between us all.
Thank you so much, Tair, and that's wonderful. And now, before we hear from the Prime Minister, let's hear from the Member of Parliament, who is a past student and a proud one at that, Mr. Mika Davis.
Good afternoon, Russians. Thank you. It is my pleasure to be here. And as was said earlier, everywhere I go, the first thing I say, and I say with pride, is that I am a past student of the Rusea High School. Today, I am delighted to have our Prime Minister with us because, as you know, in Hanover, we have our own share of problems. So we have him today, so we're going to take advantage of that. Wink, wink. But I am proud of this institution. I have close ties to it because not only am I a past student, but my mother taught English language here for years until she retired, and my aunt taught Spanish as well. And my brothers attended here, and I still come here every other day. So I never leave Rusea out of it. I continue to work with you, and by looking at me, you know that all things are possible. I am from Middlesex. Some of you are from Middlesex. I recognize some of the faces. I recognize some of the faces from my community. And so you know that a small country girl from Middlesex came to Rusea. I worked really hard, and at first, my goal was to become an attorney. I am an attorney, but I wanted to give more to my parish, and I thought that the best way to do that was through politics under the leadership of the Right Honorable Andrew Holness. So you are sitting here in this auditorium. The last thing I say about Memory Lane is that my classroom 10-2 used to be right at the back, and so I am well aware of what we do and what we go through. All things are possible. Live and dream big, and it will happen. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you so much, Russians. All right. And so the MPs from Middlesex, and I know there are students from Dias here. Is there anyone from Dias? Blenheim and Kingsway? All right, good to have you here. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the Prime Minister is on his listening tour, but more importantly, there's no chance that the Prime Minister could pass up but to speak to you here as young people, as the leaders of the school community, 5th and 6th formers, because you are the future of Jamaica. And this year the Prime Minister is asking us to focus. Every year we should focus, at all times we should focus, but critically, even when you notice things happening around you, you keep on your lane. Stay focused on your lane and what's happening in your neck of the woods, because that is how you can tangibly see your own growth. And so this year the Prime Minister says, let's focus on productivity. Productivity and peace. And that will lead to prosperity. Crucial in terms of how we focus, because then, again, as I said, you can match or look at your own growth and success. It's a simple trajectory and a simple message that if you apply to yourself in the first instance, you will see growth. But as we look at national growth and development, if you apply it, then we will see national growth. Because Jamaica needs to move from where we are to a developed world status, where we all, later on in life, would love to retire and live in paradise, as the Prime Minister says. So, ladies and gentlemen, 5th and 6th form Russians, give a warm Rusea's welcome to Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm in your parish conducting a listening tour, but it is also a fact-finding tour. It's an opportunity to hear firsthand from the people of the parish their concerns, their challenges, but also their hopes and aspirations, the things that they would want to see for their country, for their community, for their households, for their children, and for themselves. Government is an important part of both the national aspiration but your personal hopes and ambitions as well. Largely, we tend to, particularly in the Jamaican context, be very skeptical about the ability of government to ensure that your aspirations, your dreams, your hopes are fulfilled. And skepticism of government is healthy, it's normal. And indeed, in a democracy, healthy skepticism of government is important to keep government in check and to ensure that politicians are on their toes. But when skepticism reaches to the level of cynicism, then it destroys trust to the point where people don't take the word of the government, where people give up on believing that things will ever change, and people believe that government is of no consequence in the outcome of their lives. I think that is a dangerous position to be in. And I think every citizen should be invested in ensuring that their government is effective, that their government can get things done. So why am I here talking to 9th graders, 10th graders, 11th graders, and 6th formers? What do you have to do with government? It was compulsory that every child in school participated in a subject called civics. I got the tail end of it when I was going to school. I'm not sure that you got any civics when you went to school. Madam Principal, you may have gotten some of it. But it was taken out of our curriculum a long time ago. And you know, on reflection, as countries advance and we adopt other practices from, you know, what we consider to be more modern practices, we change up things that work. Civics was introduced because we were a new nation in 1962, and it was actually important, necessary to teach every Jamaican how to be a citizen. But over time, that changed, and the feeling was we needed to have a much broader subject area called social studies. And so much of the civics curriculum was rolled up into social studies and other such areas of study. But from the vantage point that I occupy, it is clear to me that the average Jamaican citizen does not have enough information and knowledge about how their country works in order to be effective controllers of their government. And we have to start somewhere. My government is committed to returning civics to school, and we have made several steps towards that in terms of returning civics. It's not a simple issue. It can be very controversial. Once you're dealing with anything that teaches about the state and politics, it can become controversial. But as we move towards becoming a republic, and your generation will be the first generation of Jamaica being a republic, you need to know literally what it means to be a citizen of your country. I don't propose today to conduct a civics class. I'm sure your teachers who are here will probably be piqued by what I have said and they may very well start to introduce elements of civics into their classroom discourse with you. And I would be very grateful if that were to be done. But it's important that I started out this way to place you in a context of the country. You are important to the country. You are important to the administration, the management, the running of the country. The country cannot survive without you. You are responsible for your country, inasmuch as your country is responsible for you. Now, how many of you live in countries that have no water? A fair amount. How many of you live in communities with inaccessible roads? How many of you live in communities where there are gangs? Madam Member of Parliament, would you say the majority of students have no water, or a fair amount? A fair amount. I didn't get a sense it was the majority. I didn't get a sense that it was the majority that had inaccessible roads. And I didn't get a sense that it was the majority that were affected by gangs. But certainly, a fair amount were. And this is, of course, quite unscientific. But it does give a sense of some of the challenges that we face as a country. And it's right here in the school. It impacts how the school will operate. It impacts you. So, will we always have bad roads and no water? And will we always have gangs affecting us? Yes, some people say yes. What's your view? Do you mind me calling upon you? Yes? Would someone want to share their view as to whether or not we will always have bad roads and no water? Anyone? Anyone?
Good afternoon. I don't think we will always be affected by bad roads or inaccessible roads and no water. I believe that our government is able to fix these problems that influence our youth, and we have our faith.
Can I tell you that I love that? Not because I'm the government, no. Even if I were not the Prime Minister, even if I were not a politician, my disposition is to have an optimistic and positive outlook on life. For me, the glass is always half full. Because I'm on my way to the top. If I say it's half empty, I'm already at the bottom. So I take a positive and optimistic outlook on life, which is what I would encourage all of you to do in your lives, in everything you do, to be positive and optimistic. However, the truth is that these conditions that affect us daily don't have to always be. There are countries with universal access to water. Jamaica, we're almost there. Not quite there, but we're almost there. But there are countries where they don't face our challenges, right? They have utility service for water right across. There are countries where all the roads of consequence are in good, accessible state of repair. There are countries where gang crime is insignificant. These are the countries that you want to migrate to. So if I were to ask by show of hands, how many of you are planning to migrate? Well, help me, Madam Member of Parliament. Tamika, help me. Or Madam Principal, help me. Would you say the majority is planning to migrate or significant? You say majority. Okay. So obviously, there are many reasons why you would want to migrate. Some of it would have to do with the roads and the water and the violence and the crime. That might be some of the reason. Part of the reason, but not all the reason. What's the real reason why you would migrate? Anybody wants to take the mic? There's a mic here. Anyone? Just by show of hands. And you want to speak, please. Here is someone who wants to.
Good afternoon, and Honorable Anto Holness. My opinion is that everyone wants to migrate because it's not really that they want to migrate, it's because that they see others migrating and they think that because what they see, because...
Take your time, take your time. Instagram of the wonderful skyscrapers and the...
Oh, you can go ahead. I can go ahead.
Good afternoon, the most honorable Andrew Holness and others who are present. In addition to what my fellow classmate or peer was saying prior, I think that persons are often influenced by what they're seeing on the media, as well as word of mouth, as unfortunately persons are not exposed to the bad sides per se of other countries. Social media gives the outlook that it's all positive and glitter and glam.
Excellent point.
But however, contrary to this belief, that's really not the case. There are places in Jamaica which is, I must say, way better than other places that are abroad.
Excellent point, excellent point, excellent point.
Good afternoon. My name is Joel Williams, and I think people want to migrate because they want more money, sir. Jamaica.
All right, plain and simple.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rashina Malcolm from class. Of stating why I think people are migrating, I have a question regarding to that. The question is, how do you, as our Prime Minister, plan to increase our country's resources to ensure our development and reduce brain drain in our country?
Good. You thought you stumped me with that question. That's the reason why I'm here, and I'm very happy that you asked the question. So why are we migrating? I'm surmising from the responses, opportunities. People are not seeing themselves being fulfilled in Jamaica. Quality of life, access to the amenities, the ability to earn, and then the lure of shiny places that seems to be streets paved with gold. Mixture of views, all of them are valid and all of them applicable. So, I started by explaining to you that I'm here on a listening tour, but I'm also going to be talking to you. I'm going to be putting some things to you. The theme of your government for 2024 and beyond is productivity and peace. Two things we're going to focus on. Productivity, to your question, not how am I going to do it? How are we going to increase our productivity? Peace, not how I am going to bring peace, how we are going to bring peace. You see, psychologically what has happened to us is that you have dropped out of the equation of success. You have dropped out of the equation of success. Think about that. And once you have dropped out of the equation of success, then success is dependent, your success is dependent on an external force, on someone else, on an external agent. That is what has happened when we have stopped teaching our students about their civic duties and responsibilities. Because a false notion has been created that government has some magic solution to do everything. And the citizen is powerless in the solution. But the break is even deeper than that, because it leads to the point where people think, I don't have to pay for anything, or I shouldn't pay for anything, or I shouldn't be asked to pay for anything. I don't have a role in this. I'm not responsible for simple things. Go to the tuck shop, buy a soda, drink it, throw it away. Somebody else must pick that up. The government must pick that up. You're in the taxi, you eat your donut, finish, throw it through the window. The government must pick that up. Yes, the government must pick it up, but don't you have a duty as well? Not to throw it out? You are an important part of success, of your success, of the country's success. So I want to go back to this business of a partnership for productivity. In a democracy, the government can't force people. Or rather, the government should not force people. Democracy relies on the freedom of choice. But what happens when people choose to do bad? No government can enforce on every citizen that chooses to do bad, that chooses to eat the donut and throw the box through the window. What happens when that same citizen returns around and says, see the rubbish on the road and the government don't pick it up? you are important in the equation of success. Can anybody tell me what is productivity? Can anyone venture a guess? Where are the economics students here? All right, all right. Should I pick on someone? All right.
I would say in economics, we learned that productivity has to do with how we manage our time, the most effective results. So in terms of what you're saying with productivity, I believe it's how we manage the resources as our country, how we make our decisions as citizens of our country to have the best possible results and to have the best country we can have.
Good, good. I like the response. I like the response. I want to break it down a little bit more. So you use some key terms in productivity. You say resources. Everybody agrees with that? Productivity has to do with resources. And what are some of our resources? Production, this economics 101. Where are the economics students? So the people, labor, entrepreneurship, that is the enterprise of bringing all the factors together. Land, that's the natural assets of the country, the water, the minerals. Financing, capital, yes. And capital, we sometimes divide that up a little bit. We say technology and innovation, right? And the ability to bring all of those resources together and create from them. So Jamaica has resources, right? I'm looking at it right here. Tremendous resources. Do you consider yourself a resource for Jamaica? Are you a resource for Jamaica? Yes? How are you a resource? Yes?
I am a resource as I opportunities which are given to me through school. I plan to have adequate time management as my peer would have prior spoken about just now. So adequate time management, I would say, and taking advantage of my resources.
Right. So yes, you are a resource for Jamaica. Very important resource. I want to just for a couple minutes hold on to my hands while I walk down a pathway. All right, so that you don't get lost with me. You're going to hold on to my hands and we're going to walk down this pathway. The last employment statistics that we have had. You remember you're holding on to my hands, right? So that means you're going to follow me. Not looking elsewhere or doing anything else. So you're walking with me along this path. The last employment statistics that we have, the unemployment statistic. Can anybody tell me what was the result? What's the level of unemployment in Jamaica? Our social studies students should know this. Current affairs. So unemployment in Jamaica is now the head girl. Good.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mr. Holness. So the last time it was about 4%. 4.5. Yes.
Excellent. Now, if any of you follow the unemployment statistics, we have been as high as 13% of the labor force. Those persons I believe it's 14 years and older, if I'm not mistaken. You do a quick fact check for me on that. I think it's 14%. 14 years and older who are seeking employment and finding employment. That's the employment rate, and the unemployment rate are those people who are seeking employment and not finding employment. Now, 13%, very high. We've had unemployment rates in rough terms. But now we have managed to bring down the unemployment rate to only 4.5%. So only 4.5% of persons seeking work in Jamaica can't find work. Rough generalization. How I know this to be the case is that almost on a daily basis, business people are reaching out to us to say, we need people. We need people to work. Recently, Capri, a research organization, did a study on the labor market in Jamaica, and they have come up with some interesting findings. In fact, they are pointing out that some skills that we really need to keep our economy growing, we simply don't have. But where are they? Where are the people with the skills? Where are the people who could acquire those skills? Where are they? I wonder. Where is the talent? Right in this room. All of you here are Jamaica's talent. Yep. And if the businesses are to grow and expand, Jamaica needs your talent. But what has happened to Jamaica's talents over the years? In fact, from the last 100 years of Jamaica, what has happened to our talents? They have, most of it, migrated. In fact, Jamaica is a net exporter of talent. We have exported so much talent that the Vice President of the United States has Jamaican parentage. There's scarcely anywhere you can go in the world where there is not a Jamaican in a high field. Because, as was demonstrated right here, our people are looking for opportunity. But can you see the paradox? That when the skills migrate, the economy can't grow. So I'm not here saying to you, you should not seek to migrate exposure to the world. I think it is important that you get access to the best education, the best colleges, the best training in the world. Indeed, there may be professions and jobs that are not available in Jamaica but are overseas. I believe you should have the full opportunity to develop your skills. But I also believe that we need to build Jamaica as well, so that comes the place of choice for not just you, but for anybody in the world to live, work, raise families, do business, and I say retire in paradise. That is, what is that called? That's Vision 2030. That's the shared vision of the nation. So let's get back to productivity. Productivity has to do with resources. You are resources. But we need to add one more element to productivity, and that was pointed out. We need to make the resource more efficient. We need to manage the resource so that it produces more. And what we're seeing in Jamaica, from all the studies that we have access to, is that our productivity, the rate at which we increase the output of our resources, our productivity is declining or flat. While the people who we trade with and compete with, their productivity is increasing. Has a lot to do with motivation, how management structures firms and businesses, but it also has a lot to do with our mindset. The people who say we want to migrate, it is commonly known and understood, and go to work overseas, they put out an incredible amount of effort. They will tell you the stories of them working 2 or 3 jobs. We want that same work ethic right here with our Jamaicans in our own system. We want you to adopt what I call a pro-growth attitude. I want each and every one of you to believe that the God-given talents that you have, which we call your labor and your creativity and your enterprise and industry, your God-given talent, that you can do much more with it than you currently are doing. That each and every one of you must set a standard of excellence. Not a transactional standard. Pay me and I do. Excellence needs to return to our society. Just meeting the bare standard and accepting the lowest denominator. And everyone is just trying to see who is the baddest, who is the worst. That's not productive. Let us set high standards for ourselves and see who can be the greatest, the most efficient. Not who can be the most wicked. These are things that it's best that I start with your generation, because you have a long road ahead of you where you can contemplate these things and change and create the new Jamaica that we want to see emerge. The roads, the water, all the challenges that we face, we can overcome them if we increase our productivity. Our economy has just started to show signs of an increase in output, our gross domestic product. Anybody knows what that is? Gross domestic product. Anybody can tell me? GDP, but what is it? Who wants to tell me?
We have a few students on this side, Prime Minister.
the total value, Councillor, wait. The total value of goods and services produced in a country. But who are the people that produce the goods and services?
We have an answer on this side, sir.
Good evening. So gross domestic product is basically is basically how much people work to produce. So the less people that works, the less GDP that we have. The more people that works, the higher the GDP. So the more the employment, or the more people will work, the higher the GDP and the better the economy.
Generally true. Generally true. It's a total output. It's the total output of all the resources combined. And of course, not just the more people work, meaning the more numbers of persons we have working, but the rate at which they produce and the value and volume that they produce. So yeah, we can have everyone employed in Jamaica, and we can have everyone employed in another country called Jamaica 2.0. And in Jamaica, the output is 10, but in Jamaica 2.0, the output is 20. What explains the difference? Productivity. The people in Jamaica 2.0 have a pro-growth attitude, so they are punctual. They see the bigger picture of their effort. Oh, and they are peaceful. Violence is not a distraction to their output. Oh, violence doesn't land most of their citizens in hospitals that take away from their productive time. Violence does not affect their mental health. Violence does not have an impact on their socio-emotional intelligence, and therefore they produce more. They are more productive. What I want from this generation, the Jamaica 2.0 generation, is that you must internalize this issue of productivity. But you must also internalize peace. Because whilst I have not heard any issues here at Manning's, at Rusea's, did I say man? Forgive me. Rusea's. Yes, I have not heard of any issues. Did I say that? Thinking of the next school I'm going. Anyway, whilst I've not heard of any issues here at Rusea's, Madam Principal, I know that you do have your own students that create problems in your schools. We know that you, as students, have to deal with violence every day. How you resolve conflict. The first response is to one. You see it every day between your parents, your relatives, the domestic situation. You see it in your communities. You see it with the gangs. And it must have an impact on how you are able to study, how you are able to focus, how you are able to be productive. So we have to treat with this issue of violence. So I've said a lot of things, and I hope you're following and understanding that your productivity is needed for our economy. Our economy is at that inflection point where we are seeing factors of production coming together, particularly enterprise and capital and technology, creating opportunities which require labor, talent to come in to help those firms create more output. The more output those firms create, the greater resources are available for public good expenditure, meaning that you will get reward with your pay, and that's your private reward, but it will also help the greater public good. It will help the markets, it will help the roads, it will help the water supply. And that is how we will ensure that what you said earlier, that we can overcome these challenges, will happen. But you see, you are so important to it. If we don't have your talent, our production won't grow. And if our production doesn't grow, we can't address the public good issues. And if the public good issues are not addressed, people are going to want to migrate because they want more opportunities. And if there's no talent, then the firms can't grow. And if the firms can't grow, public goods not addressed. And if public goods not addressed, then you migrate. What is that? That's a vicious cycle. And Jamaica has been caught in that vicious cycle for a very long time. How do we break that cycle? To create a virtuous cycle. A cycle where you produce more, you increase peace, and that creates a better quality of life, increases your prosperity. And greater prosperity encourages people to produce more. And when people are producing more and focused and are being rewarded for their production, there's an increase in peace. And that increase in peace creates more prosperity, more well-being. And that creates more productivity. And that is how you create the virtuous cycle. I want you to be agents of productivity and ambassadors of peace in creating the virtuous cycle that will help us to realize Jamaica 2.0. God bless you and thank you.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness. Very, very attentive crowd. And Prime Minister, I can tell you that even ahead of your finishing, so many Minister about this element of productivity to ensure that I fully understand it. I heard some talking at the back, and see there's a question here right on the question, students. We will get as many questions in as possible, but also you are part of the conversation that we want to have, and the Prime Minister wants to hear from you. He has so many ways of contacting him, which include on social media. So if you have your phone, and I know principal, are they allowed to take phones at school? But they're not allowed to use it in class. And ask him the questions as well. We'll ensure that he answers it for sure. And he normally does. So Andrew Holness JM on Instagram. Old Prime Minister Facebook is a little old. But definitely you're on TikTok. All right, and so he is as well.
Reintroduce regional integration in our country. Also, if you are planning on reintroducing regional integration, how are you planning to reduce this?
It's a very quickly. All right, and CARICOM is the Caribbean Community of Nations. How many of you know about the CARICOM single market and economy? How many of you know about that? Very good. Why there is a CARICOM? What is CARICOM about? Anyone cares to tell me? Well, you asked the question, you want to also answer? Anyone want to tell me what CARICOM is? Anyone? Anyone?
Good afternoon, everyone. CARICOM's main objectives include reducing the limitations of regional integration, which includes barriers of trade that...
You're nervous.
Yes. And also assisting the member states in time of need.
Yes, so you have the main elements of it. So long ago, over 60 years ago, when Jamaica Federation. Anybody ever heard of the Federation? Well, you have to do that. That's history and social studies, and which other subject is that taught in? Caribbean history. Right. So long ago when we were Federation, we were on course to be integrated almost as one sovereign nation. Federated states. That didn't happen. We called a referendum about it, and the people voted that Jamaica should not be in the Federation. Jamaica should be an independent country. And so in 1962, we started on our journey of becoming independent. Now, that was not the end of the thrust towards integration. I think what that started was an understanding that there are several levels to integration. Can anybody tell me, like, what are some of the levels to integration? Yes?
RIFTA, Caribbean Free Trade Association, and
somebody's studying their Caribbean history. So, yes, there are several levels of you could move towards what is called a single economy, where we try to single market and much of our economic policies and our trade policies, and we set a common customs area. And then we have, so for example, the University of the West Indies, that's an area in which we all cooperate. CXC is an area in which we all cooperate. All right, cricket. Cricket. And then you can have a monetary union where we have reached to a level where we have the same currency. By the way, we also cooperate in the Caribbean Court of Justice. And then you can reach a political union where we become a federal state, where there is one government that manages foreign affairs, education, everything at a national level, but sub-regional governments around. So CARICOM is not a political union. We're not integrated at that level. We're not integrated at the monetary union level either. The European Union, for example, is a good example of monetary union, and an example of political union as well, because they do have the European Parliament. So there are different types and phases of integration. Because there's the idea that somehow the region is not integrated, and that is not true. We are at different stages of integration, and we continue to increase the intensity of our integration. Recently, we have, because the question is, what are we going to do to increase and intensify our integration? Recently, CARICOM agreed to the free movement of CARICOM nationals in the region. It's an important agreement at the political level, but it's a very complicated thing. So in Jamaica, we have free access to health care. If someone who is a citizen of another CARICOM country comes to Jamaica, should that person automatically get entitled to access free health care? Those are some of the issues. In Jamaica, we have tuition-free education. Should a non-Jamaican but a CARICOM national be entitled to the same rights? And should a Jamaican who lives here and goes to Trinidad, should they become entitled to free health care? So all of these are questions that have to be worked out. And we are going through that process as a region, but politically the decision has been made that if you are a CARICOM national, because we do carry what is called the CARICOM passport now, if you are a CARICOM national, then you should be entitled to the rights of moving in and out of other countries, and that is being worked out. So yes, the dream of integration is a noble dream. We are pursuing it for its practical benefits to the region and for Jamaica. All right, next question.
Yes, thank you, Prime Minister. So the boys and girls seem to have a little rivalry here at Rusea's, because the boys are saying that, boy, you know, we want to get in some questions to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister has about 2 or 3 other engagements in this beautiful parish. So, Prime Minister, I'm going to end with these 2 young gentlemen here on this side. Oh, there's a, all right, so we'll go to the third. So let's take these 2 gentlemen and then the other. Sir.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Delano Nibs. My question to the Prime Minister is, what will the Prime Minister do for the young people, the housing for young people?
Wow.
The housing.
It's a very good question, my friend, very good question. So we have a plan which we are now executing to build 70,000 houses for Jamaicans. The housing gap, we estimate, we don't have the full figures right now, but we estimate that housing gap is about 150,000. And that was an estimate which is over 10 years old. It's probably more now. 150,000 houses, huge, a large number. We can't build 150,000 houses in 1 year. Of that, we had committed that we would have an allocation in it for young professionals, young persons, and when we say young, we're talking between 18 and 39, to be able to get these housing solutions. We were set back because of COVID. We lost approximately 2 years because it had a real impact on our ability to turn over these houses. But we are now getting back on track. So there is a long-term program that will address, even partially but significantly, that segment of the housing market. However, in the routine production of houses, and we produce a few thousand houses which fall under the NHD's banner every year, we actually make provision for young people to be able to get houses in the NHD housing schemes. So instead of putting everybody in the one pool, sometimes we make special public sector workers, special housing orders for police, special housing orders for nurses, special housing orders for the military, and now we have a category, we make special housing orders for young people. So whenever a scheme is being developed, we take out a certain number, not a large amount, because we don't want to interfere with the well-established and well-respected process of points for selection. But we do make some provision for the special category of young people. So we are seeing more and more young people getting access to NHD homes.
All right, so our final 2 questions. Thank you, Prime Minister. The young man, microphone, and then we'll come back to the young man in glasses. Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Kimani Stewart. Please bear with me, this is quite a mouthful. So my question is, how do you intend on addressing the economic struggles the country is currently facing, such as high crime rate, underwhelming workforce, and as it relates to our lower class citizens or the homeless who oftentimes face challenges when it comes to receiving proper health care and suffer due to the country's limited resources?
Well, I like your service. It goes back to the issue of low resources, the productivity issue, the output issue. And so what are we going to do? What is the government going to do about that? the first thing that the government has done, that this government has done, which is beyond questioning, beyond skepticism, factual, objectively assessed, is that we must have fiscal, good, strong, prudential, fiscal management of our economy. Can anybody tell me what that big word fiscal means? Anybody knows where the people who are doing accounting? And
Good afternoon again. So the fiscal has to do with the government and the government's decision as well as the spending and how he will actually get revenues through taxes to help develop the government, the country overall.
right, so when we talk about revenues, incentives, to ensure that we manage debt, critical. So, 10 years ago, government engaged with the IMF to ensure that Jamaica's fiscal affairs were in order. And I believe that it is absolutely, as I've said before, accepted, acclaimed internationally, that Jamaica now has solid fiscal management of public affairs. No question. That's number one. So if you ask what is the government doing, that's number one. Very important. And no government should go and change that. Very important, because there have been governments who did not manage the fiscal affairs of the country well. So like governments who borrowed a lot, government who spent on projects without accountability. And what happened? Once you do that, then you have to put on more taxes. And if you put on more taxes, it doesn't mean you're going to get more revenues, because people can't pay. What happens? You have less business. That means you have less money to spend on roads and water and crime. And that's why we're in the problems we are now. You see the connection? That's why we are in the problems we are in now. So we have just sorted out the fiscal management, which is why I'm hopeful that with your partnership, with your resources, your labor, your enterprise, your creativity, your industry, we can grow our economy. But there's one more thing that we have to do. We have to manage monetary policy. Anybody can tell me about monetary policy? I'm not going to, you know everything. So somebody else. Monetary policy. So we have to manage our fiscal issues. We have to manage our monetary policy. And essentially, what that is about is we must. And I'm not going to ask if you know what inflation is. I suspect all of you know what inflation is. And so we target inflation. We want our inflation target is to be between 4 and 6%. It's 4 or 6 or 2 or 4? 4 or 6%. But we target our inflation. And we have done fairly well in managing inflation. The next element now, and that's where you come in, because the growth of the economy, economic endeavor, meaning that it literally comes down to having every unit of production giving more output. So you are such a critical part to the growth. And what that means, we have to ensure that you are properly educated, that you have the skills that the economy is going to need, that you have the wherewithal to be productive and creative, to be enterprising, because you are the ones who are going to go out there and create the new products and the new industry and the new business. So that's why we are here today, to say to you, we need a partnership for productivity, a partnership for growth. And you play such a critical part in that. So I'm hoping that you will have a mindset change, that you will see yourself in a different light, not just the country happening to you, but you causing things to happen positive in your country, that you are an agent, that you have power in your country to make the future of the country brighter. Very important mindset change.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister. An important, very, very important point the Prime Minister made about management, the entire process. So I do know we have several questions. I see the young man over here. There's a young lady back there. I think several of them. Remember, just follow the Prime Minister on his social media pages. We'll ensure that there is an interactive session going on as well. And we'll be sure to get back to you. Russians?
Before we go, just because I know there are a lot of questions, and I know that many of you have actually taken the time to write your questions. The JIS is here, and they have filmed all of this. I'm sure they're going to make some of it available for the public consumption. It will be on their page. It will be on my pages. So you can simply just look out for this, for your rap session, and put your questions there. And we will ensure that they are answered. So you can make your comments, ask your questions, make your suggestion. So you can go to, what's the JIS's page, Naomi?
JIS.gov.jm. That's JIS.gov.jm.
And their Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and
all
TikTok.
JIS.
All of them is JIS?
Yes.
Right. Or you can go to Andrew Holness JM at all of them. Instagram, Twitter, yes. Facebook, TikTok. Yeah. Is there others? No.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister.
All right. Thank you very much.
Another minister is here, and one of the remarks he made while you were answering and supporting your fellow student, he was saying, gee, they're bright like morning star. Everybody give a rousing round of applause to Minister Desmond McKenzie. And as we close, the Student Council President has said, I cannot have the Prime Minister here without us saying thank you. And so she's doing the vote of thanks quickly.
Desmond McKenzie, Minister of Mr. Dave Brown, Member of Mrs. Mumby Leila, our Principal, Donna Anderson, Vice Principals, teachers, students, pleasant afternoon. I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this memorable occasion. Let me first of all start off by thanking the Almighty God for making today's occasion a resounding success. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to you, Mr. Holness, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to visit our noble institution to ensure that our individual insights are heard and understood. Thank you for being committed to ensuring we know the purpose of our government, as well as knowing the role we play in ensuring we have an effective government. I take this opportunity to express our sincere thanks to our principal, Mrs. Donna Anderson, the dynamic and flexible person in all academic matters, for allowing us to have this experience. Thanks to the media team for effectively capturing this forum. We highly value your expertise. Thank you to each student that participated in today's forum. Your intriguing questions were greatly appreciated, which made this a highly and effective and sociable forum. Productivity and peace will indeed lead to prosperity. I am certain that we will all take on a pro-growth attitude. Thank you.
Wow. What a wonderful Russian vote of thanks. Thank you so much, students. You've been a wonderful audience, Prime Minister. They have said they need a group photo. So because we can't do it individually, I know so many want one. So let's do a quick group photo with the Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful Friday afternoon. We'll just take one.